guys, this is Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter is back with you. It is all over Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. You can download and subscribe. Leave feedback and a 5-star review. You can also catch the podcast on Stitcher, Deezer, YouTube, and Tumblr. We are presented by Empower Federal Credit Union. Log on to empowerfcu.com. Get your peace of mind today with Empower Federal Credit Union. Also, we are presented by Bryant and Stratton College, Ken's Auto Detailing, and the Al and Angus Pub. Home of the best darn Angus burger in town before and after all the events in Central New York. If you're in town visiting family and friends, get out there. Burgers, sandwiches, homemade soups, and more. Awesome beers on tap in the bottle and in the can. The variety there is amazing, and the staff is impeccable. Randy and Matt Beach and the gang treat everybody with respect, and basically you walk in there, and by the time you walk out, you're friends with the Beach family. I'm telling you right now, they do a great, great job. And as we record this, you can go there before the Syracuse-Clemson game as well. The Al and Angus Pub, home of the best darn Angus burger in town. Well, it is my absolute pleasure to bring on to the program one of my favorite Syracuse football players of all time. He also happens to be an author, a speaker, feminist, and member of the College Football Hall of Fame. You can visit his website, donaldmcpherson.com, and get him on Twitter, at Don McPherson. He's going to be having some weekend events kind of looped around the Clemson-Syracuse game, and he has a brand new book, You Throw Like a Girl, The Blind Spot of Masculinity. Let's bring him in, the quarterback of the undefeated Orange Men. See how I did that, Don? The quarterback of the 1987 Orange Men, even though they're the Orange now. It's Don McPherson. Don, incredible to have you, man. Welcome in.
Thanks, my pleasure, Mike.
So get into the book a little bit, the meat and potatoes, for people who don't know. You Throw Like a Girl, The Blind Spot of Masculinity. How did it all come together, and what is the message you're trying to tell people?
This is work that I've been doing since I retired from football in 1994. Started doing work around men's violence against women, so all forms of sexual and domestic violence. And the title, You Throw Like a Girl, came from when I first learned about the issue and the connection to masculinity. I started asking myself, what was the worst insult? And I'd ask men for years, the worst insult you ever heard as a boy, as a young boy, going back as far as your memory. It was always, you throw like a girl, you run like a girl. And the two things that message sends, one is it tells boys to man up, to suck it up, and kind of get, be tough guys and all that. But the other message is that it says that women and girls are less than. And so that was the title of the talk I've given for 25 years, or 28 plus years. And then the blind spot of masculinity is really about the fact that as men, we don't talk about masculinity or what it means to be a man in any other context other than how it impacts women and violence against women. And that's the blind spot. We as men need to have this conversation independent of conversations around violence and violence against women, and really talk about what does it mean to be a healthy and whole man.
How serious of a problem do you think this is currently, Don? I mean, first of all, I agree with everything you just said, but, sometimes guys are just straight up stubborn, right? And so, I mean, how much of a problem is this where maybe we need to find out a little bit more about ourselves and just relationships? I feel like in our world of social media and craziness that communication in general is pretty bad, and I don't think that it helps in terms of the topic you're talking about.
Not at all, and it's a very serious problem. And as I said, it goes beyond relationships with women. When I talk about relationships with men, I'm talking about the relationships that we have with one another, and how much do we as men truly support one another and allow each other to, as I say, live in our wholeness. How often do we shut guys down by using language that's homophobic or sexist? How much do we tell guys to suck it up and not share their feelings, so they hold in their depression, their anxiety, a whole host of other health and mental issues that men don't share, that we don't talk about, and how do we, like I said, raise our boys in a way that doesn't just teach them to be tough and strong, what they need to be, but also to be loving and caring and being whole people.
We're talking with Don McPherson, of course. He's got a new book out, You Throw Like a Girl, The Blind Spot of Masculinity. Of course, author, speaker, feminist, member of the College Football Hall of Fame, and the quarterback of the 1987 Orange Men, at Don McPherson on Twitter. That undefeated team was amazing. Don, you're all over the place this weekend as we record this on a Thursday, right around 4 o'clock. I think I read right that you've got a couple of signings. I know that you're at the Shine Student Center at 1 p.m. on Sunday. You're at Barnes & Noble in DeWitt at 1 o'clock. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're at Saturday at the Shine Student Center at 1, and then Barnes & Noble DeWitt at 1 o'clock as well. And I think the SU bookstore, so make sure that all my listeners know where you're at.
Yes, the Syracuse University bookstore on campus at 1 p.m. Saturday the 14th. That's right before game time, so there'll be a lot of excitement going on. And stop in, get a book, and drop it back off in your car, in your hotel, tailgate, or bring it to the game with you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, timeouts are long enough these days, right? You could probably get a chapter in.
No question about it. It's a nationally televised game. The timeouts are long. It's a quick read. You might be able to get a chapter or two in a timeout. Exactly right. And then on Sunday, I'll be at the Barnes & Noble in DeWitt, right there on Erie Boulevard, right next to Raymore and Flanagan. So it's a good spot. I stopped by there this afternoon. They've got plenty of books, and looking forward to a fun afternoon Sunday at 1 o'clock.
What do you hope people say about the book when they get done with it?
You know, I hope that it sparks conversations within families, with parents and their sons in particular, with men who are coaches and people who are coaches of boys. And I think that's the most powerful thing that hopefully the book can do is spark some sort of conversation that people start to have about thinking about being intentional about how we raise our boys.
You know, whether I talk to Armin Katayan or Ian O'Connor or Adrian Wojnarowski, they all tell me the same thing. Writing a book is a challenge. It is hard. But most people will say that, you know, if they write a book and they write articles for a living, speaking becomes a little easier. Well, guess what? If you speak, writing might become easier. Do you find that yourself, you know, being that speaker helped you become the author?
You know what? Even before I started speaking, when I was in college, I loved to write. It's very cathartic to me. It's a stress reliever. I got a lot of things going on in my head, and so it was always a good place to download a lot of things. And I find that speaking is easy, comes easy and naturally. The writing does as well. The hard part about writing is editing, is throwing out things that you really thought were great, and then someone saying, it doesn't read well. And that's been, when you speak, no one's there saying, I didn't get that what you just said. Sometimes you'll get that feedback later on, but you don't get it in real time. When you're writing, you get people saying right away, hey, that wasn't the best way you could have worded that.
Well, what's funny too with writing is you can edit. You know, if you edit your own stuff, like, you can read it 4 or 5 times and then miss something, and you're like, what? I read that. I reread that like 4 or 5 times. Like that. That's one of the challenges I have for sure in terms of writing. When you first started this book, did you have initial goals in terms of like the message? Did you have certain chapters line up? I mean, how was this book organized?
So I wrote it originally about 18 years ago, believe it or not. And, it was rejected many times because there was the notion that men didn't care about this topic. And I truly believe that men care deeply about this topic, and we don't always have the right place and environment to have these conversations. So the book was organized somewhat autobiographical. I do believe that I have to tell my story a bit because it is odd to have someone who has my background to identify as a feminist and do the work around sexual and domestic violence. So I give a little bit of that history of how I got to this place. And then it's an analysis of the work I've done over the years of talking to young people and what have been some of the most poignant things that need to be discussed. And so I talk about the impact of media. I talk about the impact of families, and a chapter titled Traditions of Silence, all the things we've been raised not to talk about. And then finally, the last chapter is Be Your Son's Father, Not Your Father's Son. And I had an amazing father, amazing dad, but there were so many things that he didn't do, and that I want to be a better parent than he was. And that's not saying that he wasn't a good parent. He was a great parent, but every generation needs to advance, and that's really the sort of the call at the end of the book, is that we need to, as men, need to be a part of this conversation in a better way. Well,
make sure you go to the website, of course. It's donaldmcpherson.com, and he's an author, speaker, feminist, and member of the College Football Hall of Fame. Don McPherson, signing all over the place, and you can pick up your books, as mentioned, around Central New York, the bookstore on game day at 1 o'clock, Barnes & Noble DeWitt, 1 o'clock on Sunday. I just have a couple quickies here, Don. I can't let you get away, as you know, without asking you something about football, because you were one of my favorite players. I was 8 years old on the 87, when you were on the 87 team, going 11-0 and all that. But let's fast forward to this Saturday. This is a monster game, obviously. Could have been a little bit different, a bigger stage if Syracuse had beaten Maryland, but hey, it's still going to be pretty cool. What are your thoughts on Syracuse-Clemson Saturday?
It still is a big stage. Don't get it wrong. I think the Maryland loss was I think devastating for a lot of people. Obviously, 63 points is not a good sign. Although you have to give Maryland a lot of credit. I thought they played very well and executed very well on offense. Syracuse's defense struggled. I think where Syracuse is going to struggle against Clemson is the same places they struggle against Maryland. Clemson is an offensive machine. I mean, they really do a great job. They execute very well. Obviously, you know all the stars who handle the ball, but you gotta look at their offensive line. Is a very, very good offensive line. They execute very well. Defensively, Clemson's is tough, especially up front, and that's gonna give Syracuse a tough time, especially with some injuries on the offensive line. And so, you know what? Anything can happen, and here we are back to saying that. I think the loss last week has exposed some issues for Syracuse, and they're playing a very, very good Clemson team that has not seemed to lose any steam since the national championship.
All right, final one in about 30 seconds to a minute. What's harder, quarterbacking the Syracuse Orangemen at the time, Orangemen, or being an author?
No question about it. Being an author is way harder. When you play football, the one thing you know is you've got 10 other guys who have your back, and then you have another 11 who can't wait to get their shot to get on the field. So you've got a big family around you when you play the game of football, and that's what makes it such an amazing game. So it's much easier than writing, but I will tell you right now, at my age, at my shape, I'll sit in front of my computer and sit at my desk and then get out there behind center.
Yeah, it's kind of like golf versus a team sport, right? It's all on you. You can't do anything about it. You just got to keep hitting the ball. Again, it's called You Throw Like a Girl, The Blind Spot of Masculinity. The author is Don McPherson. Make sure you go see him throughout the weekend across Central New York. I just retweeted a couple things to let you know where he is. Shine Student Center on Saturday at 1, Barnes & Noble, DeWitt, Erie Boulevard, 1 o'clock. And make sure you follow Don on Twitter, at Don McPherson, author, speaker, feminist, member of the College Football Hall of Fame, DonaldMcPherson.com, and the QB of the Orangemen in that unbelievable, undefeated season of 1987. Don, you're the best. Thanks so much for doing this. I'll see you soon.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
You can download and subscribe to the ML Sports Platter all over Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Deezer and Stitcher, and it's available on YouTube and Tumblr as well. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College for every and in life. Bryant and Stratton College. Log on to bryantstratton.edu today for their 2- and 4-year degree options. We are also supported by your State Farm agent, Matt Graham. Get a free rate quote today. He services Central New York all over the place. Matt Graham, home, auto, life, business, and more. Matt Graham and State Farm. Visit SyracuseInsuranceAgent.com. Also a big tip of the cap to the Allen Angus Pub, Ken's Auto Detailing, and Timber Banks Golf Club, the official Nicholas design and only Nicholas design in New York State and of the ML Sports Platter. One more tip of the cap. Thank you to Don McPherson. Make sure you hit him and me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. What a great interview. What a great book. Look forward to seeing him over the weekend. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.